all these things with you. Uh, so I started preparing for this exam in the year 2014. I moved down to Delhi. I joined Sriram's IAS, and 1 year, about 10 months of preparation I did with them. I attended their classes regularly and built a very strong base, knowledge base with almost all the core subjects, be it polity, geography, history, everything. So all that I studied there. And after 10 months, I moved back to my city in Ludhiana. And the 3-4 months of time that I had in between for my prelims, I prepared from there. So the first time I wrote my prelims, I got through the prelims. And what I did was, what I found to be of most help was repeated revisions. I was revising after I'd done my coaching here in Delhi, after I'd attended all the classes and understood all the basics of subjects that are required for this exam. I went back and I revised them again and again, again and again. And in that period of 4-5 months, I think I must have done about 7-8 revisions, which is really important because it is those revisions that ultimately crystallize all the knowledge that you acquire in that span of a year. So those revisions I did, and I was also writing tests. I was writing mock tests, prelim mock tests for different coaching institutes. I would buy those tests from the market and attempt them at my place offline. All that sort of helped me in getting through the prelim in the first attempt. Then a mistake, however, I did in the first attempt was not thinking about my mains when I was preparing for prelims. So the entire 1-year time span, I was preparing, I was studying, and although I had been writing answers every day for the coaching institute, but in my mind, somewhere, I was not oriented towards the mains. I thought to myself that let me just clear prelims first and then I'll take a look at mains. But it was after I wrote my prelims when that I realized that I barely have 3-4 months for my mains, and that is not too much time, and I had to bug up. And I was at a complete loss because I had information enough to get me through prelims, but then I didn't know sort of how to use it to write answers in mains. So that was a problem, and then I went running to different institutes and joined their mains test series. And I did it online because I was based in Ludhiana, so I was taking online test series from there. So I wrote those tests from there and worked on whatever feedbacks I got. I did my best. I did it all very seriously, and first attempt I got through with about 688 marks in mains. I got an interview call. I went for my interview. Again, I was quiet, and I would say this, in the first attempt, I was quite naive. I wasn't perhaps too aware of how difficult this exam is as to what to do to be in the final list. And I was perhaps taking it all a little too casually. So I didn't really prepare hard for my interview, and I did not get through the interview. And that was something I had not expected, so that was a shocker to me, but I guess it had to be like that because I had not prepared well. Again, the second year, I decided to attempt, and I continued with the same set of things I was doing because the first year I'd got through my mains, and I assumed that whatever I've been doing, I'm doing it correct. All I need is to push through. And that's exactly what I did. So my marks did, witness a jump from 688 to 782, but that year, cutoffs were really high. And I was not doing any comparative analysis. I was not looking at what others around me were doing, and so I wasn't even aware of how the level of competition is growing up every day. So the second time, I didn't make it through the mains. It was then that I decided to rework my whole approach to this exam. Then I had to think as to what I'm doing wrong and where I need to work. So Now, by this time, I had with me all the knowledge base that I had acquired in the last 3 years. I needed to now see as to how to use it in mains and how to make sure that it fetches me marks. So I'll now go into details about my strategies here, subject-wise, and then I'll also talk about how I came up revising them again and again. And in my final essays, I also made sure that I would begin it in the manner he had suggested, either with an anecdote or with a conversation. He told us that these are the most marks fetching strategies, so I did this. And I put in a lot of quotes in there, I put in data in there. I was quite happy with my attempt at essay this time. I was prepared, unlike the previous 2 times. Coming to my GS1 paper, see, you will be following all the traditional books that people follow, from Spectrum to NCRTs, from Bipin Chandra. There are more that I am, as of now, not naming. So all those books, make notes from them. But then when it comes to writing the exam, Forums, MGP made it a point to tell me that presentation is very important. And GS1 is a paper that gives you a lot of scope to draw diagrams, which is something I'd not done in my first 2 attempts. So repeatedly writing tests for Forum IS at MGP, they sort of compelled me into drawing diagrams for GS1, and I did that. So wherever I felt a diagram could be drawn or anything could be highlighted, I made it a point that I do that in my papers. I did it in my mocks. I also did it in the final paper. Then for GS2, you study ARCs, you study D.D. Basu, Lakshmikant, other books that I am perhaps forgetting. But my scores in GS2 in the first 2 attempts had been consistently low. So I was still not confident with this subject after having read so extensively on this. And then there was this lecture that Ayush sir was taking, and he had asked us to go through Empuri's notes on GS2, and I fetched that notebook from the market and went through it. That was also of a lot of help because therein, no, I didn't get the original notes. A photostated notebook I got, and those I read. I had to order it online. I ordered it from Flavido. From there, that was the only website that I got it from. So how was it of help here? Those notes discussed all the issues involved in various sections of our constitution, and perhaps solutions to them. And they also had linked ARC suggestions in between. So I found almost every other text that we read for GS2 sort of crystallized at one place. And all the ARCs have a lot of excess information also, which I still had it in my head. But Empuri's notes gave me a clear idea as to how to use that information. That is where it was of help. For GS3, I read Economic Survey and I read Niti Aayog's documents. I was also reading whatever arguments about schemes or initiatives in the newspaper. You go through the syllabus, and then I had actually prepared notes section-wise. So, for instance, if I talk about infrastructure, there's energy, there's ports, there's airways, there's roadways, and I prepared notes about everything. And I remember my mentor here had asked me to to have ready-made answers to things. And this is something I was doing for all other papers also, but I'm talking here of particularly GS3. So what I did was, let's come back to infrastructure. This is just one topic. I was doing it for all the topics. So for infrastructure, what I did was, say let's pick up energy. Now, energy, I sort of raked whatever information I had through whatever sources and gathered whatever issues we had, whatever data I had on energy scenario in the country, put it in one place, analyzed it and again figured out what are the issues and challenges in the sector, what all government initiatives have been in this area, what are the loopholes in there, and what measures can we take. Have there been suggestions in various government documents or texts regarding those loopholes within this sector or not? And I put everything at one place. And all this, these ideas about organizing my notes, I picked up from Prajit's article that I happened to read after having written my prelims this year. So, and I was organizing, again I'm saying this, all my subject notes in this manner. For ethics, again, ethics, I changed my way of writing. I used to write in the form of essays, and consistently my score in ethics had only been around 100 or so. It wasn't really good. Here again, the feedback that I got from forum was quite specific and quite helpful. So when I wrote the test the first time, in my first 2 attempts, let me rephrase this. So when I was writing tests earlier, in my first and second attempts, I was scoring less, but with just a remark that you need to improve. And that didn't help me at all. I wouldn't know as to how my ethics answers could be improved, because ethics, we all assume that it's too personal and it comes from the heart. So, it's difficult to work on such a vague guideline which says improve on it. That wasn't helping me. So when I landed here at forums and wrote my first ethics test here, what they did was, in my answer copy, for every answer, they had either drawn a flowchart or given me points or given me sources telling me specifically that this is how your answer could have been written and it would have been better. So wherever my content required a change, they told me so, and they wrote it all in specifics. This is what you could have added, or this is how you should have written it. This is a flow chart that you could have drawn. This is a diagram that you could have drawn, and they drew it in my copy. So when I saw a few such diagrams, I understood in time that this is how I should approach writing for ethics papers, and it will fetch me marks. So that is what I did for the 4th paper. So now that I've spoken for all these GS papers, I'll again sum up how this year, what all changes I did this year. One was essay. The fact that I'd not gone